Hey guys, this is me Ashik. So in this video we'll see how to connect to a database from Python. So we are going to connect to a database and then we'll be sending SQL queries from Python and then we'll be getting back the results from the database. So in order to do this we need the use of two libraries which is called SQLAlchemy and PSYCOPG2. So if you don't have them you can just do a pip env install SQL Alchemy and PSYCOPG2, which will install them in your local machine. And I'm not going to do this since I already have them installed. So in this video, we're going to be using PostgreSQL, but the process is pretty much same for any version of the database. So let me know in the comments that what sort of database do you use. So feel free to comment that below. So let's see what we have in the database. So we are inside the database called sample DB, and then we have a single relation called student. So let's see what we have inside student. Select star from student. So we have three columns here, and then we have 5 records in this student table called student. So we'll be connecting to this table from Python, and then we'll be sending some SQL queries. So let's see how we can do that. So in order to do that, we need to do a couple of imports first. So we say from SQLAlchemy, we import create engine, and then from SQLAlchemy.orm, we import scoped session, session maker. So and then we need to create something called as a database engine. So this database engine will be responsible for sending the SQL queries from Python, and then it will get back the results from the database server. So in order to create an engine, we say engine equals create engine, and we are going to do this locally. So we say PostgreSQL / my username test user password at localhost 5432 / the database name, which is sample db. So now we need to create a separate session for each and every user. So this might not make sense in this example. So when you connect to a database into your web app, there will be multiple users accessing the database simultaneously. So we want to create a separate session for each and every user so that one user's query does not interfere with other. So we create a separate session by db equals scoped session and session maker, and we say we bind this engine to our database object. So we bind this engine. So now let's create a couple of functions so that we can demonstrate how we can send in SQL queries from Python. So let's create a function called show students, which will list out all of the students from the table. So in order to execute an SQL query, we say db.execute, and then we send in the SQL query which we want to execute. We say select star from students, and since we want to get back all of the results, we use the .fetch all method, which fetches us all of the results. So if you are only concerned about a single result, there is also something called as .fetch1, which will return only the first row of your result. So we want to save this inside of a variable so that we can loop through this. So whenever you use the .fetch all method, the result will be the records will be written in the form of a list of list. So we are going to loop through the list. So we say for student in students, we are just going to print the student. So now let's create a couple of more functions as well. Let's create a function we'll create a function called add student, which will add a student to the table. So it's going to take in two parameters, which is name and age. So we say db.execute, it's going to be an f string. We say insert into student the columns of name comma age with the values. So it's going to be name quotes colon age. So whenever you make change to a database, something like using an insert statement or an delete statement or an update statement, so you need to commit your changes. So only then the changes will be reflecting back in your database. So we say db.commit. So and then we'll just we'll just print saying that we added a student, and then we'll call the show students method function so that we can see all of the results, whether the student was added or not. Let's also create another function called delete student, which deletes a student from the table, which is going to take in the id as a parameter. We say db.execute. It's going to be an f string again. We say delete from student where id is equal to id. So we have to again commit our changes. So we say db.commit, and then we'll just a second. I'm just gonna we'll say print. We'll just say that we deleted the student, and then we'll call the show students function again. So that's it. We have created a couple of functions where we send in SQL queries from these functions. So let me just start up my Python interpreter so that we can demonstrate how this works. So I'm just going to import everything from this file called connecting.py. So I say from connecting import asterisk. So I'm just importing everything. Yeah. So now let's try to call the show students method. This should return us all of the tables in the database. So let me just press enter. Oh, select star from students. Oh, the table name was student rather than students. So we say select star from student. So I have to close this session up. So I'll start up the interpreter again. Say from connecting import asterisk. Just clear this. Oops. So let's call in the show students function again. Show students. It should work right now. Yeah. So now we get the list of students who are in the database. So there's a student with 1, 3, 4, and 5. Now let's try to add a student and let's see what happens. I'm just gonna say add student. We'll add a student called Jill with the age 30. So if I press enter, it should add this student to the database. So insert into student. So I think I forgot to close this up. Yeah. So sorry for the typo again. So start up the interpreter from connecting import asterisk. So now let's try to add a student. We'll add the student called Mahideen with the age 20, let's say. If I press enter, now it has added a student. Now we see that Mohideen is being added. So let's try to add another student as well. We will add a student with the name Jill, comma 21. So even Jill is being added. So we are able to add another student. Now let's see. Now let's try the delete method. We say delete student. We will delete the student with ID 4. So if I press enter, now the student with ID 4 is being deleted. So that's all about, guys. That's all. This is how we can connect to a database from Python. So we just created an engine and we created a database object, and then we created a couple of functions to demonstrate how we can send in SQL queries from Python. So in this example, since we are doing it locally, you're actually using the local host URL. But if you have the database in the internet, then this should be the actual URL of your database, which is residing in the cloud. So if you use any other version than PostgreSQL, then you should only change this. So if you use MySQL, this PostgreSQL should be changed to MySQL. So and that's it. There's not pretty much any change you would need to do if you are using some other database. So that's it for this video. So in the next video, we'll be creating a simple web app, and then we'll be connecting our database to the web app. So if you enjoyed this video, just please give a like below. So and then from now on, we are going to be taking YouTube a little bit more serious. So we are planning to come up with a video every 10 days or so. So don't get missed up. So please do subscribe and stay tuned for the later videos. Thanks for watching.